Welcome back to another episode of the fantastic show that is Toon Talk TV. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Welcome to our show. Be sure and like, follow, and subscribe. Check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/wearethetelevision. Guys, I don't think I've ever been so excited for a cartoon, to talk about a cartoon, than I am Jimmy and Baby. Like, this, I think, is the top of the top. I thought this was so good.
Who found this? Who found this? Because you found that one?
Yeah,
I mean, it's intense. And you know what?
It is
so recent. Like, I mean, this came out like three weeks ago?
So when this comes out,
Yeah.
it'll be maybe like 6 weeks or 5 weeks
or so. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, who knows?
It is nuts. Directed by Paul Robertson, but Bob, you picked this. You take it away.
I did. All right. So this is a 20-minute long cartoon, and I'm going to qualify it as DIY, even though this does not look like a DIY cartoon. It has a very small group of people that worked on this, all top notch at what they do. Every single person that worked on this I don't want to even call it a short. It's 20-minute long animation. We're going to divide it up a little bit this time because we want to cover everything. Mick, why don't you start it off by just talking about the story a little bit?
So the premise is pretty simple. It's a heist cartoon is what it is, which I love. I love any group of characters that have to get together to steal something. But the premise is Jimmy and Baby are tasked to retrieve a diamond, but end up kind of fumbling the snap, so to speak, and they get into hijinks, and it's about them completing their task. But the first line of dialogue in this story isn't uttered until 3 minutes and 26 seconds into the show. And the line is, "Surf's up, dude." Like, that's the first line of dialogue.
Well, a huge thing to cover for this, too, that we need to preface right off the bat, is this entire thing looks like a video game cutscene.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it looks like something straight, like a retro video game cutscene. Something that you could play on a Game Boy Color. But it's the real deal. It feels like you're about to jump into the game at any moment, but it keeps going.
So... yeah, touching back to the writing, so the story itself is very. I can see the complexities when you gotta write what's happening in a scene, because a lot of stuff happens from scene to scene. Like, there's a crazy shootout in a saloon that I have to imagine was nuts.
It's wild.
Like, what's going on? Yeah, but I'd say one of my favorite parts from story is the cold open that they have. They start with pixelated strippers, which sold. Like,
yeah,
they're just
man, I'm in. I'm in
dude.
immediately.
Give me more. That was great. And then there were two scenes that I want to talk about that were just written, and it's going to be really quick. But first, there's a scene where a skeleton grabs a gun, shoots a bullet, and then that bullet stops before it hits someone, pulls out a knife, stabs the person.
Great.
And then they cut to the buddies of the guy that got stabbed, and they turn into werewolves and then go attack. Like, it was nuts. Yeah. And then the second scene, it reminded me of old school Looney Tunes, but it's a scene where they hop behind a boulder and then they shoot out the boulder in the shape of the person hiding. And it just cut me back to old school Looney Tunes. Like, I feel like Looney Tunes would do that again. But
touching more on stuff that you just said, there was a few other scenes that I thought were just so funny. Like when at the end where there was a diamond, they're destroying the diamond, but instead of just destroying the diamond, they turn it into a duck, a tiny cute little duck, and then blow it up.
Like they unveil it, like they turned it into a duck, and then you see the massive explosion.
It's like it hits so way harder, and it's like so much more emotional that way, and like so funny too. It's like why, but also like bravo, hilarious idea.
I guess I should touch on who wrote this, and it's Michelle Larney and Dave Suppley, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Apologies.
Dave also did all the sound design for this and some of the voices.
So I'm going to say that those were my favorite written scenes. I mean, the whole thing is written very beautifully, but I can see the complexities on writing a story with zero dialogue and bravo to them. Like, I thought this was great.
So I want to talk a little about that with the zero dialogue. I felt like you like, from feeling like you're in a video game and like the retro video game soundtrack going on, you don't need the dialogue. At no point did I feel like I was missing something, like I didn't understand what was going on, and that's the route that they took with this one.
Well, to touch on that though, it is one of those cartoons where like this happens with subtitle anime, and this happens with Primal. This happens with cartoons with no dialogue. If you look away for 5 seconds, you're like, well, wait, I need to rewind this, because
That's true.
You do need to be invested the entire time.
Which I think that's a good thing to pull your eye towards it. Like, that's kind of lame if you're not looking at it. It's just like, sit down, watch what we made, what we put all this time and energy into. I mean, there are some, like, so a lot of it is like the classic video game sounds and boinks and sound effects of what's going on. But then one of my favorite things that I heard in it was, I mean, there's a lot of homages to like classic games in this animation, and one of them was did you guys play NBA Jam?
Yeah,
on Sega and like Super Nintendo and stuff.
On fire,
yeah, dude. So that wasn't even like a stolen sound effect. Dave actually voiced that and put that in there. So I thought that was amazing. The boom shakalaka, and like it just sounds so real. It was so good. And then the music for it, that was by Jake Kaufman, who is like a professional video game music composer, and I mean, has so much like music online that you could check out. Like he did he worked on like Contra 4, he worked on DuckTales, he did like the Cubert for Game Boy Color. Or something awesome that I found through just looking at his music is he develops it on a lot of like the retro old school like chip emulators that the original music was built on.
Oh, very cool.
So you could actually, well, and we'll put a link in the description, but he shows the like, I guess it's called a tracker, but a lot of them are free and open source trackers that you could just download and get for your computer to make 8-bit music. So we'll put that in the description.
Cool. Yeah. And to touch a little bit on the design and animation of it, we talked a little bit before, but this was fully done in pixel art, which it could have been in a video game cutaway scene, but it was a 20-minute video game cutaway scene that was for like a full length story, which was amazing. To get a little technical with it, like in terms of animation, what I loved, there was so many smear frames. Do you guys know what a smear frame is?
You're about to tell us.
All right. So in like in old animation, they still do it now, but I remember seeing a lot of it in like Looney Tunes and stuff like that, where if you're going to do a fast motion, like a punch or a run or something, instead of drawing the frames to get there to do that, maybe it'll just be like a giant whoosh of an arm across the page. Or like there's this Instagram that's pretty much devoted to these smear frames. It's called one.perfect.frame, where you'll see like Bugs Bunny with like 3 heads because his head's spinning. Like, so they had a lot of moments in this where they utilized smear frames where you would only see it if you stopped the animation and watched, but it really made its own style throughout the whole thing. And for it being so 2D and retro and pixel, it still felt very 3-dimensional. There were parts where like in that bar scene where he's like crawling on the ground through all like the crazy shit happening. Like there's like people running over him. He's like running towards the camera, or like sometimes they'll do cutaway scenes where like crazy action will happen. The amount of gore in this was insane for how but it's
all
still
the titties
looked,
too.
Yeah,
So
and it
many.
looked like it still looked like a kid's cartoon, which is so hard to do. Like, how
Yeah.
can you throw all of that in there while still making it look cute? Hell, they drew the way they drew Hell, like it was kind of like metal. It was kind of like super awesome, but in
With
the same
8-bit
way,
metal music playing at the same
it's
time,
great.
which is awesome.
It's just great.
So I got a question for you guys. If you guys could make a cartoon out of a video game, out of just using one game's cutscenes, any game, you guys could pick whatever game. But I mean, if you could make an animation using those graphics, what would it be?
I'm going to go with Red Dead Redemption 2 because it would just be me in a motion capture suit doing whatever I want to do.
What about you, Bob?
I would pick Resident Evil.
That sounds terrifying.
That's the one that came to mind for me too.
Those cutscenes are always amazing.
Yeah.
Fred, you got one?
Honestly, I feel like I don't play video games enough to really think of
Come on.
Viewers, please disregard that. Disregard that comment.
I mean, honestly, I can't think of one. The first thing that came to mind was Resident Evil, but I mean, outside of that, I really can't think of one.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Do they have cutscenes, cutaway scenes?
I don't think so, but I've seen you play that game before.
That's what I'm saying. I remember all the games that I play, I feel like are super retro, and they didn't have cutscenes, or if they did, they were like the same play as what you play as. So
I would say we will definitely link everything in the description below. Shout us out on what you think that your favorite cartoon would be that you would want to make an animation from. Guys, final thoughts on this one.
Great tune.
Very cool tune.
Very, very cool. If there's a cartoon that we should be watching, how about you shout us out in the comments? Let us know what we need to be watching. But thanks for watching the show. Again, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/WeAreTheTelevision. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Step outside to the smell of gas, crack glass from the bottles thrown. The food truck drips with the greasy smell of the television.